Interruptions. They happen to us every single day, and hands down, they reduce our productivity and pull us away from getting the important work done that we need to do. During episodes 31 and 32, we talked about the different kinds of interruptions that can happen when you're sitting at your desk and how to refocus and get yourself back on task. We broke it down into two areas of refocusing techniques, creative and small movement based, both with the goal of resetting your mind and body back into the space where you can keep going and get more things done. But what happens if we could preempt the interruption before it even shows up? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Hello and welcome back to Your Productivity Pulse with Michelle Oucharek-Deo, productivity coach and corporate wellness strategist, focused on building a community for people who want to move beyond the checklist and find real sustainable solutions to all kinds of productivity challenges, working together to find time and value in building a life that is more sustainable, less stressful, and one where we actually get a chance to flip over the rock and find those little sparks of joy that keep us going and help us build the life we want to have. Back to interruptions. After several weeks of research, conversations, and analyzing what actually disrupts my day or a specific activity I'm engaged in, I have come to see that interruptions really break down into several categories. Number one, we live in a world of notifications with pings and dings emanating from almost all our devices. The good news is, that's an interruption we can absolutely do something about. But that only works if you're willing to be intentional about setting aside time and brain space to work on a specific project. Good news? The fix for this, number one, doesn't cost you a thing and it can be found in your settings of any device. Number two, takes less than a minute to turn on or off. Drum roll, please. Oh, there you go. That's kind of somewhat dramatic or not. All you have to do, honestly, is put your phone on airplane mode. I know, it sounds too simple, doesn't it? But it actually works. So here's the process. Put your phone on airplane mode, then set a timer. Choose one of my favorite time tools, maybe the 42-minute hour. And for those of you who are joining me for the first time, the 42-minute hour is a focused 60-minute block of time made up of 42 minutes dedicated to your primary goal and 18 minutes dedicated to a secondary goal. If you want to learn more about how the 42-minute hour came to be, I'm dropping my time origin story in episode 35. But let us not get interrupted during a podcast on interruptions. So there you go. Simple and to the point. Airplane mode on, timer set, intention chosen. Now it's time to get to work. Now, if your day does not really allow for a primary and secondary goal split, and it is more like primary goal after primary goal, then here's what I suggest instead. Allocate out 42 minutes flat. These are timed, focused 42-minute segments that allow your body and your mind to fall deeper into the task in front of you. When the 42 minutes is up, stop and pull out one of your refocusing tools that you learned about in episode 31 and 32, giving your brain an intentional break with purpose, taking back control of your task management and reducing your own interruptions with intentional refocusing techniques. But now you might be asking me, Michelle, what is the second category of interruptions? Well, that would be sometimes when other people interrupt us. I mentioned the need to start setting boundaries in episode 32, and it's time to take a step further into that conversation. So what happens when you're at a work site and you have a job to do? You're working hard and someone keeps asking you to change direction, interrupting your process, and never lets you finish the task that's in front of you. Well, here's what happens first. Your productivity goes down. And it is not just productivity. Your efficiency goes down, and so does the effectiveness of the work you are actually doing, and even your morale. What can you do about it? Well, yes, those are much bigger picture conversations. One of the first things I would do is sit down and map out all the ways you think you can improve productivity in your workplace, not just for yourself, but for your whole team. Pull together some of the research we've talked about around interruptions and draft it up point by point. And if during this process you identify that this is a much bigger issue than you first thought, then it may need to become a conversation that an entire department brings to leadership together. I know that sounds a little intimidating. It might feel like nobody is going to listen. But here's the thing. If you're working at a company, an entire department comes together with a clear, concise document and presentation about why the current system is not working, why constant interruption and repivoting is hurting the business, and you bring a solution with you, you have a much better chance of creating real change if it is presented as a team. I even have a productivity example for you today. So, what if you implemented a flag system? When someone comes to you with a request, they choose a colored flag and place it on the request to signal how urgent that interruption really is. A yellow flag means it's important, but it doesn't need to break your flow at that moment. It then goes into the yellow basket, which will be looked at a dedicated time, maybe say in the afternoon when all the orange and the red flags are taken care of. An orange flag gets your attention, but it means that you finished the file that is open on your desk, and then you'll pick up the orange flagged file once you're finished. A red flag means stop right now, because if this is not addressed immediately, something bigger is going to go wrong. Even starting with a simple 3-tiered color interruption system that you bring to your team or leadership can start the shift in culture. Because the only way change happens in any workplace is by showing people there is a different way to do things and by showing up as a united front. If one person speaks up alone, they can risk their job. If the whole team speaks up together, that opens the door to a real conversation with management or ownership about meaningful change. Most of the time, leaders who resist change are not doing it out of malice. They are rooted in routine, rooted in fear of change or fear of the unknown. New technology can be intimidating, especially for people who have convinced themselves it's too expensive, or they can't learn it, or they can't do it, or would rather keep doing things the way they have always done just because it feels easier and safer. But what we need to do is sell the new idea gently. Not go in hardcore and dismiss their experience or their wisdom, but bring the hard numbers alongside the real lived experience of the people on the floor, the stress levels, the reduced engagement, and connect that directly back to the volume of interruptions and how when everything gets red flagged, it creates a cycle of reduced productivity, which is actually costing them more money in the end. Because when interruptions get treated, when every interruption gets treated like a red flag, real priority projects are mixed in with oranges and yellows, and even the green flag projects, the ones that need to get started, are delayed and constantly interrupted. These ones, they're at greater risk for increased mistakes, which then creates a whole new set of challenges further down the line. And with more yellows and possible oranges and those dreaded red flag interruptions. So you can see how creating a clear system at the top has the power to change how an entire environment works. They just don't know it yet. This is where getting your team together matters. Having the conversation, presenting the fuller idea if you are the one who sees it, right? So building the courage, grabbing onto that thread to getting the right people in the room and letting them know what's really happening and what could change if they tried something new. In the end, you have to find a way to let them know that the current model, the red flag interruption model that they're living, that they've embraced, halts productivity, and by developing a new system, it will allow the people on the team to improve overall output and build a better culture in the workplace. That keeps the flow of work moving through the system, and it increases workplace productivity while also increasing self-satisfaction and internal productivity for employees, management, and ownership. If you're a manager or an owner listening right now, ask your employees how things are really going. Ask your contractors. Ask if there is something you can do to help reduce the interruptions in their day. Be open when they come to you. And remember, if someone knows more than you about one thing, make the space to listen. You would be amazed at what we can all learn when we stop and listen. And if you're the employee, dig deep. Do the research, put the numbers together, pull the people together, present it with respect, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get a better handle on these red flag interruptions, because worrying about work and dreading going back the next day, that's not sustainable. We have to keep figuring out ways forward, and we just have to keep trying. I know it's hard, but don't give up. During this series on interruptions, we've talked about how to manage interruptions that come from within yourself, technology, and interruptions that are sourced from others. There's no one answer to these challenges, but it's something that we'll continue to discuss as new ideas evolve. That's it for this episode. I hope there were some threads of hope and support in there for you today, and some ways to counter interruptions and find new paths to refocus and improve your effectiveness in every area of your life. Oh, and just one reminder, make sure to turn your airplane mode off after you've finished your project. And if you want to keep this conversation going, I've started something new. So join me at bit.ly/YPP newsletter. And if you would like some help putting together a productivity plan for your workplace, email me at vanartexpression@gmail.com. vanartexpression@gmail.com. All right, just remember, we only are given 168 hours every week, and it's time to make those minutes truly matter. Have a fantastic day, and remember, keep listening to your pulse.